Hey, I am editing the thing that you're about to see right now, and I wanted to add a little bit more of an intro to this to the thing because I'm going to talk about a movie that disturbed me a lot, and I wanted to add here that I've seen Terrifier 2, I've seen Barbarian, um, most other like known horror movies from this year. This one is by far to me the most disturbing, and it's also very good. So let's talk about it. Every year there's at least one film that it might not be my favorite, but it's the one I think about the most throughout the year. And for this year, that film is definitely going to be Soft and Quiet. This is a very small indie production that was picked up by Blumhouse, and it's available to rent right now. This is definitely going to be included in my hidden gems video of the year, but I really wanted to talk about it, and make a full video. So that's what we're doing. I've been thinking about this film daily since I saw it, and later on in the video, I will be talking spoilers, but I will give you a warning if you're interested in seeing it. So, my spoiler free synopsis of this film is that it's about a group of women who feel disenfranchised with their lives. We follow them in real time as they meet up in a church to talk about their struggles. The film actually has a few different locations, and it's made to look like it's all shot in one take. So, we see them in this meeting, and then we go to the car where they drive over to the next location. So the vibe very much has this. The film has this vibe of like we're just along for the ride as these women make some very very bad choices. I know I'm being incredibly vague here, but that's because I went into this film not knowing anything about it, and that honestly seems like the ideal way to watch the movie. This is one of those films where you're just watching a situation spiral completely out of control. And in that way, I think this movie really works. There are some sections in the third act that get maybe a little too loud. I think they actually realize this in the editing process as well, because at some point where the characters are yelling and arguing with each other, the sound kind of goes in and out. But that's kind of my only complaint with this movie, is that towards the end it gets a little too chaotic. The acting here is fantastic though, and the movie looks great. I would not be surprised if some of these people that are involved in the production goes on to do much bigger things. Now, for me to actually talk about why I love this film so much, I have to talk about spoilers. And listen, for this beginning part, I'm just gonna say what this meeting that the women are going to, what it's all about. So I'm not gonna talk about the ending or what happens with certain characters or the third act. I'm just gonna tell you what makes this movie so unique. And you get this reveal really early on in the film. It can't be more than 5 minutes in. The movie opens and we see our main character, Emily. She's a teacher for an elementary school, and she's talking to one of her students. She opens up to the child about how she dreams of making a children's book. And as the kid's mom comes to pick him up, there's this awkward exchange where you can tell that something is just not quite right with Emily. She's very rude to the school's cleaning staff, and at one point, it's pretty clear how hard she is trying to be liked by the child, and also it's like weirdly competitive with the child's mother. You can't quite put your finger on it, but you get right away that there is something strange about her. And as the opening credits roll, she walks to the church where she's holding a meeting strictly for women. Emily has baked a pie for the women to enjoy during the meeting. She takes off the tin foil, and that's when we get the big reveal, like 5 minutes in. She's carved a swastika into the pie and says, "What, can no one take a joke anymore?" The camera pans back, and we see a whiteboard with something like Daughters of the Aryan Race written on it. So yeah, this movie is about white supremacists. And now that I've told you this, you can sort of see where this movie is going, right? The film is essentially a visualization of the radicalization process. Of course, it's sped up because it's a 90-minute movie, but that allegory, like, it really works for the film. There's one woman there who hasn't been to any of the prior meetings, and we see how she is supported and encouraged to say vile and outrageous things by the other members of the group. Hey, did I mention that this is a very heavy movie? Maybe that goes without saying at this point. It's not for the faint of heart. After the group is kicked out of the church, they have to interact with the outside world, and this is where the story really starts to spiral to a point that is so disturbing. I think this movie is gonna piss a lot of people off. And honestly, I think that's good. This film is not meant to be an easy watch. It's there to challenge you. Before I talk about the third act, I also want to mention that there's something very morbidly humorous about this film, and I mean that in the sense that this is the darkest of dark comedies. There's just something in the juxtaposition of having these soccer moms spew the most vile shit you've ever heard, that it's oddly funny at times. And as the movie goes on, that feeling of, like, humor starts to wash away, because the third act of this film is horrific. I'm not going to go into the specifics here, so all I'll say is that these ladies, they're up to no good, and here's what happens in the third act. This is all I'll say about it, so spoiler warning here. There's no good way to say this. They commit a hate crime. That's it. That's what this movie is about. The film left me absolutely gutted. It's such an emotional experience. When the credits rolled, I was exhausted. I think as more people get their eyes on this, it's going to start popping up on these, like, disturbing movie lists that are so popular here on YouTube. But yeah, I'm not going to spoil what happens at the very, very end. I love this movie. I don't know if it'll end up, at the top of my top 10 list of the year, but it will certainly be on there. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you want to hear me talk about weird horror movies I find, please consider liking and subscribing. I appreciate all of your support.